Dramatic visuals from Bolivia this Wednesday as the now former military leader, General Juan José Zúñiga, led an attempted coup against President Luis Arce. Hundreds of troops and armoured vehicles had taken up positions on Murillo Square, and one armoured vehicle attempted to smash down the entrance to the presidential palace. Soldiers withdrew within a few hours when the president sacked the military leader and appointed a new chief. Surprisingly, after General Zúñiga's arrest, he claimed that he did all of this with the confidence of the president in order to boost his popularity. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange lands a free man in his homeland in Australia. The 52-year-old publisher was in a legal battle with US officials for the past 14 years. He was accused of leaking classified documents which they said put lives in danger. The case centered around a massive WikiLeaks disclosure in 2010 when the website released a video from a US military helicopter that showed civilians being killed in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. It also published thousands of confidential documents suggesting that the US military had killed hundreds of civilians in unreported incidents during the war in Afghanistan. Assange pled guilty to a single espionage charge in front of a US judge on Wednesday in exchange for his release from a British prison. After Kenya saw massive protests across multiple cities, which claimed around 22 lives, President William Ruto says he will withdraw a finance bill containing controversial tax hikes. The initial bill proposed to increase sales tax on bread by 16% and add a 25% duty on cooking oil. The bill also planned to increase tax on the ownership of a new car. These proposals have now been scrapped, but demonstrators say they want the entire finance bill to be withdrawn. President Ruto said he would now enter into dialogue with the young people who were at the forefront of the bigger protests to hit the country since he was elected in 2022. China has become the first country to gather samples from the far side of the moon and bring them back to Earth in a landmark achievement for the Beijing space program. A re-entry capsule containing the precious cargo parachuted into a landing zone in the rural Xizhiwang-Banner region of Inner Mongolia on Tuesday by the uncrewed Chang'e 6 mission. The US, China and the former Soviet Union have gathered samples from the near side of the moon, but China is the first to bring material home from the far side. The latest samples could shed light on long-standing mysteries in the early history of the moon and Earth. Amidst the intensifying Russia-Ukraine war, US Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell said on Wednesday that the United States has some concerns over India's engagement with Russia in military and technology domains. Campbell made these remarks at a virtual media briefing that was focused on his and US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan's visit to India last week, where the two countries agreed to deepen cooperation in areas of semiconductor, artificial intelligence, critical minerals, and defense space. Hello. You're watching Global Compass, the weekly show that updates you on all that has been happening around the world. In our next segment, let's look into some of the stories that were specifically featured on Strat News Global. The United States issued fresh sanctions against Iran in response to continued nuclear escalations before the country went to polls on Friday. In a statement, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said, quote, "Over the past month, Iran has announced steps to further expand its nuclear program in ways that have no credible peaceful purpose," unquote. New sanctions are imposed on 3 companies based in the United Arab Emirates, the US accused of being involved in the transport of Iranian petroleum or petrochemical products, as well as 11 associated vehicles. Again, a merchant vessel reportedly was hit by Houthis in the Red Sea off the coast of Yemen on Thursday. No injuries or damage were reported in the incident, which occurred 84 nautical miles west of Yemen's port of Hodeidah. The vessel was headed for the city of Dammam in Saudi Arabia. International shipping has been disrupted by attacks in the region launched by Yemen-based Houthi militants since November. Meanwhile, Israel is intensifying its attack on Lebanon's borders to counter the Hezbollah and Iran-backed Houthis who are fighting against Israel in the Gaza war. After the Canadian Parliament's strong stance on Niger last week, India's High Commissioner to Canada, Sanjay Kumar Verma, has demanded evidence to back an intelligence report alleging interference by New Delhi in Canada. He said, quote, "It has been influenced by anti-India elements. You need to come out with infallible evidence. I do not see any hint of that," unquote. He claimed it to be a politically motivated move by Trudeau, and these statements will further sour the bilateral relations between the two countries. Earlier, Canada deemed India and China as the main foreign threats to Canada's democratic institutions. Sri Lanka is set to sign bilateral debt restructuring agreements with key creditors Japan and India on Wednesday. In May 2022, Sri Lanka defaulted on its foreign debt after a severe depletion of foreign exchange reserves pushed its economy to the brink. The country has been working towards economic recovery with the help of international support. In November, Sri Lanka reached a provisional agreement with the Official Creditor Committee, co-chaired by Japan, France and India. Moving on to the Central Asian continent, the Tajikistan government has moved to formally ban the wearing of the hijab in the country. This move gives legal weight to the remarks made by President Emomali Rahmon, who has referred to the hijab as foreign clothing. Notably, 90% of the Tajik population is Muslim. The hijab ban is the latest in a series of steps from President Rahmon, who heads a secular government to promote what he has deemed Tajiki culture and minimize the visibility of public religiosity. To discuss the politics behind controlling women's choices and the politics behind Rahmon's 30-year-old government in Tajikistan, we spoke to Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, a retired Indian diplomat who also served as Chief of Staff to the United Nations Human Rights Commissioner. She is an active commentator on international affairs. Here is an excerpt. Take a look. In a country which has a population, 90% population of Tajikistan are Muslim, how do you read this particular development?
If you take this particular case study of Tajikistan and you look at the history of the Tajiks actually were never very extremist or fundamentalist in their approach to any religion. They're a deeply entrenched tribal society, and they have, it's true, tribes and entrenched tribal customs. The hijab doesn't fit into any of those tribal customs. They have very attractive headgear for both men and women. That being said, in my opinion, and I have been asked this question many times as an emancipated Indian woman, I have always said that a woman should have the freedom to choose her own dress, but at the same time, it is important to educate women as to what a dress means at any particular point of time or history. Like, for instance, suppose I have to go to a very conservative part of the world, as indeed a colleague of mine did, a European colleague, to a very conservative part of Libya to meet the imprisoned son of Gaddafi. And she was wearing a mini skirt. And I had told her when she left Netherlands, I was ambassador at that time, that it is better to be fully dressed with a scarf, safer for the person concerned. And indeed, they immediately caught her. They said she's a woman spy. And but for the intervention of the Russian ambassador who was with her, they might have executed her. So when she came back, I told her, I said it is important for emancipated women to know how to dress, when to dress, where to dress, for their safety and for the safety of their companions. That being said, if the Tajik women do not want to wear the hijab, for me that's a very welcome sign. On the other hand, if a Tajik woman wants to wear a hijab for sake of her identity, in my perspective, it would be better to explain to her that a hijab in the context of Tajikistan means what? It means a step backward because this is not a country that had put their women in behind a veil ever in their history. We've had it in ours when in the Delhi Sultanate period, The first time the Hindu woman wore the ghungat, it was supposed to be protection. But in Tajikistan, they have a different history. So while I don't like banning the hijab through diktat because I'm a very democratic person. I would prefer that they educate their women to what a hijab means in Tajikistan, and they should freely decide to wear it or not wear it, or perhaps, like they do in many countries, they wear a small scarf if they want to. If they don't want to, they don't wear it. When I have gone to Muslim countries, I have asked them, would you like me to wear a scarf? If they've said, no, it's okay, you're from India, you can do what you like. If they say, no, ma'am, it would be better if you wear a scarf, I have never argued. I've worn a scarf. I must go with the flow. I must respect their rituals and traditions. So my long answer to your short question is, it's a good step, provided the women are happy about it. That we don't know yet whether they are happy or unhappy, but women have their own way, we know, as women, to make our unhappiness felt. So if they are not happy, they will surely, in a subtle way, demonstrate that they're not happy about it.
Do you think the state or the power of the state should be, or an agent to decide what is progressive, what is regressive when it comes to women and clothing?
I think if it's a state which has regressive laws on women, like it is, for instance, in Afghanistan now under Taliban, where women cannot go beyond primary school. Women are not allowed to go to the university. Women are not allowed to play sports. In fact, living a woman's life in Afghanistan has become complete hell. There, I would certainly welcome if a new government came and changed these regressive laws so as to allow Afghan women to breathe and to live in liberty, and they want to. Because I will not accept that an Afghan woman is happy just being given 3 years of primary education and forced to stay in school. That an Afghan woman who was in the process of becoming a medical doctor is now forced to stay at home. She cannot go out. So it depends on how regressive the state is. I am making a general remark. So therefore, in the context of Tajikistan, I don't know how regressive it is for women, but I understand that the president uh, has a strong views on secularism and on moving women forward. He's not the first such person. If you remember, that was long before maybe you were even born. There was a guy called Gaddafi, or maybe you were around at that. Gaddafi liberated women, Libyan women, as did Saddam Hussein. In Saddam Hussein's time and in Gaddafi's time, there were women in the armed forces. There were women who did what they wanted to do. Now, you can condemn their dictatorial form of government, but they certainly liberated women. So, my answer would be it depends on how regressive the laws were, and if there was a strong man administration who liberated women from those laws, to the extent that it talks of liberation of women, I would welcome it. To the extent that there is no democracy in that country, that is unfortunate. But if you're just talking about women and the need to liberate them from such highly regressive laws like no access to healthcare, marrying them off at the age of 10 to men who are 60 years old, not giving them any opportunity to play sports, to 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 uh, to go to the university to become doctors, lawyers, etc. Yes, I would certainly condemn it, and I would welcome any measure that would enable society to liberate their women.
You can listen to the entire interview on Strat News Global on Tuesday. I do hope you have subscribed to this channel and gotten your friends and family who are interested in foreign affairs to do it. I hope you will like and share this show as well. And it's time to wrap up this week's Global Compass. But before we let you go, here is a glimpse of the women of the Indonesian band Voice of Basprot. And this is indeed interesting. We just spoke about women's choices. The trio in their hijab will be the first Indonesian band to play at the Glastonbury Festival, one of the world's biggest, sharing space with the likes of Coldplay and Shania Twain. Overcoming religious stigma and breaking orthodoxical stereotypes, these girls will indeed inspire women and women artists all over the world. Enjoy. See you next week.